Vanessa, thank you so much for joining me today. Could you just start about telling me about your journey to the training contract and what you do now?
So I studied history at UCL. I did a standard 3-year course at UCL. And I maybe I should go back. So before applying for uni, I found out a little bit about law, but I didn't really know much about solicitors. I kind of thought of this stereotypical being a barrister. But I spoke to somebody who told me that you can become a lawyer, whether that's a barrister or solicitor, without studying law at uni. And I really liked history at school, so I just thought, okay, let me just apply for history and then find my way if I want to do law. At UCL, there were loads of campus events for banks, consultancies, law firms, loads of different things, like advertising, marketing, and I actually found the presentations from the law firms really interesting, found out about doing the GDL, the conversion, and it started falling into place about applying for vacation schemes, internships. In my first year, I didn't do any formal work experience or anything, just kind of went to open days and stuff. But in my second year, I applied for a few vacation schemes. I did a vacation scheme at Mayor Brown for a summer. Had no idea what I was doing.
I think we've all been there when you turn up and you're like,
no
okay.
idea what I was doing.
And
I think that's probably why I wasn't offered the training contract at the end of second year. And for a non-law student, it was an okay position to be in, but I had a lot of friends on the LLB who did vacation schemes in second year and got jobs at the end of it. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. I haven't got a job, but then I realised that there were loads of schemes for non-law students in your final year. So I applied for the Clifford Chance winter vacation scheme in the winter of 2015. Wow,
throwback.
In winter of 2015, did that. It was like a really short scheme that they used to run. And then I interviewed at the end of the vacation scheme for the training contract here. And then I was offered, finished my final year, took some time out, travelled, did the GDL, did the LPC, and then I started here a year ago.
And for you, when you came from doing the LPC, GDL, and then actually starting on that very first seat, what was the biggest kind of challenge or change that you had to get used to with that?
So I think when you're a student, you get so used to managing your own time and structuring your life around, because your deadlines are set in advance, right?
So you know what's coming.
Exactly.
You're ready.
Your exams are set in advance. You're told at the beginning of the year you have an exam for contract law on the 10th of July, or you have an exam for German history on 15th of May. Like most of us will leave it until the week before, but if you wanted to, you can plan and structure your time so that your coursework is done, you've revised for your exams. I think the biggest struggle for me coming into the workplace was that I'm naturally a really organised person. My friends always laugh at me. I have calendars, I colour coordinate, it's just my thing.
I think you have the little stickies on the desk and everything.
I love
I'm the
that
same
kind of stuff. So I thought I was going to come in, I'm going to game it, it's going to be sweet, I'm organised, this is so straightforward, but I think the biggest thing that's relying on that is the assumption that everyone is running on the same schedule as you, and they aren't. You may be working on 3 or 4 deals, and there may be only an overlap on one of those deals with somebody, which may mean that they need something for a certain period of time that you can't deliver based on the other things that you're doing. And I think managing those time expectations for somebody who I thought I was quite organised and good with time management, that was difficult. And I think that's been the biggest kind of shift from being a student to being a corporate trainee or commercial trainee.
Following on from actually your last point, one of the most kind of difficult questions that I was asked at the assessment centre was essentially, what does a trainee do all day long? And I actually, even though I'd done VAC schemes before, it was actually a very difficult question to answer. So for some of the viewers, could you explain what does a typical trainee do in a day?
So I think even within that, being a trainee and having been here for a year, it's not a clear-cut answer. It's so nuanced. So as I've said, I've sat in corporate, finance, and now real estate. So similarities within those teams, but also very, very different types of work. And I think within that, I'm only like a week into my third seat, but
Congratulations.
From what I can see, completely different experiences. So I guess I can give like a general assessment. So I found with corporate, because it's a lot of team working, tends to be bigger deals, bigger transactions, cross jurisdictions. It can often be the trainee's role to coordinate and manage. Mm-hmm. So making sure that you're aware of legal updates or something from other council, other jurisdictions, making sure you're recording those. Because a firm, so CC London is the hub, and we tend to drive the deals from the London office with support with the other local offices. So it will often be down to CC London to report directly to the client with the updates. Okay. But if you have no idea what's going on in Paris or no idea what the team in Frankfurt are doing, you can't provide those updates. So it will be the trainee's job tends to be in corporate to funnel that and to make sure that the team in London are aware of the things that are going on.
So how do you deal with handling that level of responsibility and pressure as a trainee? What kind of support mechanisms are there at Clifford Chance for that?
So I would say with a big firm like CC, it's the best balance, because you tend to have, as you said, the assumption that because you're in a big firm, there are loads of wheels on the clock, so they don't have enough work to spread around. Yeah. But then if you think about it in the inverse, because it's such a big firm, they have loads of work coming in from clients, which means more often than not, it's all hands on deck. Yeah. And I think because the firm is so big, there's such a support and resource network. So we have like document production services. So if, for example, you're asked to put comments into a document, but you've got other things on, there are like dedicated typists that have 24 hours that can put comments into documents. You've got each trainee is given a secretary, so you have secretarial services. You have your other trainees as well. So, for example, you may have a trainee who's sat in finance and you haven't sat in finance before, and you're like, what does this mean? Yeah. You can like message, in your intake of 50 people, there's definitely somebody who's sat in that seat before.
And done it before,
exactly. And like just the sheer numbers of the team. So I'm in what's considered one of the smaller teams right now in real estate, but there's such a pool of knowledge of associates and partners who have definitely worked on a transaction very similar to something you've worked on now. Yeah. So you can just, knock on the door and say, hey, have you seen this clause before? Or so I would say that I've not work-wise ever felt a situation where I haven't been supported or I don't know where to go. I mean, we have professional support lawyers as well. I actually think we often say as trainees, there are so many resources, you feel like you don't use them all. Like we have paralegals in Newcastle, like there's a lot, basically, as a trainee, and like particularly with tech as well. So the firm is quite big on making sure that things that are repeat tasks, like putting things into documents or creating spreadsheets and stuff like that, anything that can be automated and can save you time, they make sure that they can find a way to implement tech. And if you're somebody who can put your hand up and say, I'll go for that, again, that's something else.